Hello, fellow midlifers. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I will be sharing how I analyze a buy and hold rental property. Let's get some things clarified before I dive into the numbers. My goal for investing in real estate is cash flow. And the metric that I look at first and foremost is cash on cash return, or some people call this yield. Assuming that the deal passes the cash on cash return test, I also like to look at cap rate or unleveraged yield. So let's talk about a turnkey property and analyze the deal. Let's assume that this property is being sold for $129,000 and will rent for $1,200 a month. As I mentioned, it's turnkey, so there's not a lot of work that needs to be done. It's rent ready. Let's assume that I will put 25% down. For turnkey properties, I always assume 10% maintenance and 5% vacancy, at least in my market. I also assume a 10% property management fee since I lean on property managers to manage my property. In my market, insurance is around $1,200 a year, and property taxes are around $1,000 a year for this kind of property. Even if it's turnkey, I always assume that there are some repairs still. So I'm gonna assume that it's gonna need around $2,000 worth of repairs. And I'm also assuming closing costs of 5%. Now, these assumptions can change depending on your situation. But for me, these are what it looks like for the properties that I had purchased. I use a calculator by Chandler David Smith. There is an app that you can download, but you can use any rental property calculator. So with that price, we are getting a cash on cash return of 3.6%, which is too low for me for a turnkey property. Although the average cash on cash return in the market that I play is closer to 1 to 2%, sometimes even negative. But what I'd like to do in cases like this is that I will adjust the price to increase the cash on cash return. One of the things that I learned as a midlife real estate investor is that you don't have to pay list price. You can offer a price below list price to make your deal work. So in this case, I'd adjust the price to $120,000. And with this price adjustment, you will see that the cash on cash return is now 5%. For a turnkey property in the market that I invest in, this is actually above average. The other metric that I look at is cap rate. Cap rate is the return if there is no debt on the property. So here you'll see that the cap rate is around 7%. So if I paid cash for the house, the cash on cash return would be 7%. So with these metrics, I think it's important to ask, what is the average deal in this market? And you learn the average deal by analyzing hundreds of deals in that market. The other thing to think about is that you can offer even lower than $120,000 for this deal, especially if it has been on the market for a longer than usual time. So let's say we make the purchase price $110,000 instead of $120,000. Then the cash on cash return is now 7% and the cap rate is 8%. In my market, 7% cash on cash return is pretty good. As I mentioned, usually it's 1 to 2% or even negative in some cases. When I was a new investor, I found it hard to make offers significantly lower than list price. I felt like the sellers would get offended. But now I realized that that was saying no to myself before even anyone else was saying no to me. So if you are trying to buy your first deal in midlife, like I was 4 years ago, I want to tell you it's perfectly fine to offer lower than list price. Only make offers on deals that make sense for you. I'd love to hear from you. how do you analyze deals? What metrics do you look at? What other topics about midlife investing do you want to talk about? If this video was helpful, I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.